Sean, you're the guest. Now you get to go that we've settled the hot topic. I'd like to know your topic for the evening.
So my topic came from a little bit of background. We all read Wikipedia. Colin and I were talking off the air about it, but like, you know, these Wikipedia holes that you get sucked into.
Sure.
You know, you jump on the site and you're researching or you're reading about something you're interested in, and then all of a sudden something else pops up and it's hyperlinked, and you just open that new tab.
You think you're there for a sandwich, then you're on a hot dog, then you're on a calzone, then you're on a pizza.
So this came out of one of those. I had watched an episode of Cosmos, and Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about how the genius among geniuses was this guy Isaac Newton, and I thought it was really interesting, so I went on Wikipedia and started reading about Isaac Newton, and I got sucked into this more scientific, mathematical hole about all these things that I don't understand because I am not a physicist. But it comes from this. Mathematics, is it something that we invented, or did we discover it? And the reason being, I was reading about gravity, and supposedly when, you know, Isaac Newton had the apple fall on his head and, you know, discovered the law of gravity, he found that it was a constant anywhere on the planet for any object, 9.8 meters per second squared. And to me, that is kind of the basis for the theory that it's not something that we invented, that it's a property that just exists in the universe and we just happen to kind of stumble upon it. But a lot of people that I've discussed this with seem to think that that's not at all what it is. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts.
Well, I think that as far as mathematics go, mathematics is just a language, right? So we invented a language to describe these things that we discovered, I think is my outlook on it.
Yeah, see, I guess that's the thing is, like, if you went to Pluto and there's aliens there, right, and they're talking about gravity and everything, they might count in different things, right? It's not going to be, what was it, meters you said? 9.8 meters? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not going to be like that, right? It'll be cubes arbs.
Right. So I guess that's the question then, is,
are you from Pluto?
We making a distinction between the actual, like, symbols and arithmetic that we use to calculate the laws? But what about the laws themselves? Like,
no, the laws are natural.
There we go. So if they've always existed and have existed since before we were around, must have been something we discovered, right?
Yeah, we discovered it. We discovered math because it's like you're talking about gravity. Gravity is a universal constant, just like thermodynamics or electromagnetism. Like these things exist everywhere. And for all of our science to work, they must be universal. That's like the whole principle of physics, is that like it must work everywhere. And if things start to break down, like that's why black holes are very complicated, for instance, because it disrupts the rules of physics. Math exists, and it, like 1 + 1 is 2 everywhere in the universe. It's just a matter of like how you get there. Now, Isaac Newton's interesting because he technically invented like trigonometry and stuff like that. But again, like that existed. It was just we didn't know how to talk about it or prove it, as it were. So to me, like science is as natural as anything. Like and math is as natural as anything. Like these things exist, and there's so much we don't know, but we figure out a language, like you said, to talk about it.
Yeah.
We talk about it from time to time, and it reminds me of Contact, like the Carl Sagan book and movie, when
Jodie Foster movie.
Yeah, when
Matthew McConaughey.
When they understand, like the aliens receive the Berlin Olympic transmission and send it back with mathematical math encoded in it, and the way that they do math is totally different than the way they write their notation is totally different, but we understood it because that is the universal language or whatever.
Right.
They didn't try to talk to us; they gave us numbers, and so
prime numbers.
Yeah, and they use, like, if I remember correctly, like lines and dots, I think was like the way they like
binary.
Yeah, and we use Arabic numbers like typically, but Romans had their own way. Like think about it, like the way the Romans expressed 2 and the way the Arabic system expresses 2 is different, but they mean the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's why I think it holds true. It's just like the written word for us, right? Like it's just a language to describe the various things that we can observe in nature. That's all the written word is, really. And the same with math. Like, I don't think you can discover something. I think math was inherently invented. It was just invented as a language to describe the things that we discovered. I'm standing by that.
Yeah, I mean, the way we express it, but like math is like I said, that's natural. Like, we just didn't know how to. Cavemen realize that's not even a good example. When we started like animal husbandry or we started like agriculture, certainly like really primitive peoples were like, we have to segment half of the seeds for now and half of the seeds for later, 50% for now, 50% for later. They probably didn't know how to express that, right? Ultimately, like through time, they were like, this is a percentage, we need half of it. The half always existed. The way of splitting something down the middle existed, but they didn't know how to express it until they did. But it always existed. Same thing with you were talking about with Isaac Newton. Like gravity existed. Gravity has existed for 13.7 billion years. It's just a matter of, we didn't understand it. We didn't understand like what kept everything falling downward, including us, always falling downward. So but that existed. We just didn't understand it until 400 years ago.
I think the biggest case for it being something that we discovered is that it works everywhere, right? Like the constants don't change. Like light always travels at the same constant in a vacuum, no matter where you are, no matter what is happening. And for it to, it's weird because I've talked to people who are very convinced that it's something that we invented. Like
that we
that
invented
it's not,
math.
Yeah, that it's not part of the natural world. It just happens to be the language which we describe natural phenomena, and somehow they make they divorce the two. And I don't know, it struck me as very strange because it seems to be pretty divisive. I think we're all on the same page here, being rational
smart
people.
Yeah, I don't understand that argument simply because think about it like this. Splitting an atom, right? Like there's a way to split the atom, and we're not the only civilization that's split the atom, certainly in the galaxy or in the universe. The math to get to that point must be identical. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of like how you express it. But like the answer is the same.
Yeah.
Like it's the same as 1 + 1 = 2. It's the same as, splitting the atom. It's the same as. By the way, I said Isaac Newton invented trigonometry, invented calculus.
Get out of here with your
that.
broke ass shit.
But but there 1 + 1 is always 2. So like if 1 + 1 is always 2, then how can you possibly reach another conclusion scientifically that isn't the same even if you express it differently? The answer has to be the same. The thing about math is that there is an answer.
Yeah.
It's not like a humanity where there's an interpretation. There is no interpretation.
That's exactly what I was about to say, is like math is the only absolute truth that we know of, right? Like the concepts may change and differ in terms of their interpretation, but the value is always the same. And it does that. It's that way throughout the whole universe that we know of.
Nick, what the fuck were you doing?
I was looking up that picture that Sean recommended me earlier about Michael Keaton.
So that's how you checked out on the math topic. You're like, we're done. It's done.
Math broke my brain.
I just looked over and there's a picture of the Incredible Hulk and Bill Bixby. I'm like,
no,
what?
You saw the article. Then.
Yeah, so Sean Finnegan tweeted at me earlier today and reminded me again to check my Twitter feed, Nick_Scarpino, for anyone that wants to follow me, that there's this really cool article that went up with some behind-the-scenes photos. We're getting a lot of those now. Mm-hmm. You're getting a lot of behind-the-scenes photos of these cool movies that we had with kids because there's, digital distribution is so widespread that the sharing of information is amazing and immediate. Sean just tweeted me a picture of it's a slideshow, and in the middle of the slideshow is Michael Keaton looking through a Panavision camera, the viewfinder of a Panavision camera in the Batman suit on set, which is, and he's just smiling like he knows this is going to be the coolest movie ever made, which it was.
That is an awesome picture.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's pretty amazing.
But back to math.
Yeah,
but back to math.
I personally said my piece on it. I think that's. I couldn't understand the argument otherwise.
I have trouble wrapping my head around it too. I think it comes from, I don't know. I hate to be presumptuous, but it comes from some belief in the supernatural or the religious, I think, somewhere in there. That's the only way I could figure justifying it.
That it's something we
something that we invented, or that it's not, that the values that are represented in the language of mathematical are not universal. I feel like in order to really believe that, you have to believe that what we've discovered about the universe was invented by someone else or something else.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like when you think about chemistry, like an atom, like a molecule with 3 electrons thrown around, it's carbon everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everywhere. That is what it is. That's the definition of it. Carbon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's constant. Mm-hmm. And that is a term that's not only a chemical term, it's a mathematical term. It's a mathematical way of understanding it, that you can identify something by how many electrons are going around it. That like the table of elements is consistent throughout the universe. And that is a mathematical fact.
But we don't just we discovered the fact that there were 3 electrons circling around it, but what we call it is math and science. If that to someone on Pluto is going to be called completely, their science and their math is going to be completely different than ours. It's just their way of describing the things that are natural phenomena in the universe. So I don't think you can discover math. I don't think you can discover language the way you discover a mountain or fire, which is by happenstance. I just don't. I think the terminology there is just, it's off. We're splitting hairs and it's a semantic argument one way or the other, but I don't think you discover math. I think you
Oh, carbon's atomic number 6.
Just fucking get your broke ass facts out.
He's
of here.
2. He's 2 for 2 right
What
now.
is
You're
3?
just-
What is it? It's
Hydrogen,
helium,
helium.
beryllium, right?
No, beryllium's heavy, isn't
Kevin?
it?
No way.
You boron.
Hydrogen, helium.
You know what I mean?
It's something.
Yeah.
It's
Like, let us
something
talk
random.
more.
Yeah.
It's
It's
one
not-
of those things
it's
where
not
we
boring.
drop to the spectrum. Usually
There's no way.
it's like Tim
Yeah.
and I over there in the stupid corner. Here you are, just chilling with us.
It feels good. It's
Lithium.
liberating.
Lithium is 3.
Yeah.
And-
Then beryllium.
Beryllium's 4.
Yep.
Oh no, I was close.
B boron,
Beryllium.
C or 6 carbon.
Beryllium.
N is 7 nitrogen.
Nitrogen, yeah. Oxygen.
Oh, oxygen.
Now we've stooped to just reading the periodic table now.
When the
what I
aliens
wanted to
show
know.
up, Colin, how are we gonna talk to them?
Math.
I don't know that we're going to talk to them.
I'll talk to him.
We'll let our
We've
guns
had-
do the
we
talking.
no, they'll let their fucking weapons do the talking. We've talked about.
I'll
We
say
had
what's
a
up.
conversation about this, right? Was it a conversation with Colin? No, it was
I'll say
probably
what's
an
up,
episode.
We've
of
talked about yeah, like what if they're friendly. We've never actually talked about the semantics of how we're gonna sit down and communicate.
Yeah, it probably has to be their math. But you have to assume that if they were able to travel here, that they might even be able to understand us.
Well, that wasn't that Stephen. That was Stephen Hawking's argument. Is like there's almost a certainty that whatever intelligent life we end up first contacting, it's going to be far advanced, like much further advanced than us. So far advanced that they may not even be able to recognize us as intelligent species. Like it'd be the same thing as looking at as humans looking at ants, right? Like we have no discernible way of telling if they're intelligent. They do some things that hint at intelligence, like they work together,
Yeah.
for instance, to protect themselves, and they have like they protect their queen and they build structures and stuff.
But then they do dumb shit like keep coming in our kitchen. There's no
Yeah.
food there.
Or
Stop
like
it.
you've seen how they all follow pheromone trails. So if one gets thrown off, the whole colony just dies because they just follow the ant in front of them and they just go in circles forever until they die.
Yeah.
Every one of them. So it's like if they really are that advanced, is there any possibility that we have of communicating with them? Probably not, right? We can barely even we don't even go to the moon anymore. And as far as we know, there's no intelligent life within any observable part of the universe right now. So if they come, they must come from really, really far, which means their technology's got to be super advanced. We may not even know that they're there. Like they could just be right outside the solar system, just chilling. We would have no idea.
What if they were on their way and they shot right past us because someone wasn't checking their iPhone, and now they're on their way back, but it's going to take a little while.
Wait, what? Repeat?
I don't
I'm
know.
so confused.
Nick was swinging. Nick was swinging for the fences on that one.
missed
Yeah.
Trying
so
to get. He was
badly.
like,
Why would the guy with the iPhone
inside
be...
Nick's head. He's like, I gotta get off the bench. Here I come.
I'm trying to get back into the combo.